It's Thursday, it's 8 o'clock, and it's the Big Detecting Show, and I'm just finishing my hard work. Good evening, Adrian. How are you this fine day?
Good evening, David. How are you? Good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Lovely and sunny.
I've got this weird triple vision thing going on. Maybe quadruple, maybe deca vision.
Okay.
I'm seeing 10 of things.
I get that now and again, usually Friday nights, Friday evenings and Saturday evenings.
I'm seeing
sometimes Sundays.
10 of things behind you.
Yes, that's a clear out. I'm chucking in the hobby. So I'm going to be selling all these machines in the next couple of weeks, if anyone's interested. So no, I'm not. I was
funny guy.
I was sorting the shed out and the car and the house and the pantry and the other shed. And
Mrs. Gale has kicked you out.
No, whilst it's nice weather, put them in the garden and then you can sort them. And oh Lord, it's like a kid when they're about 10 and they feel they're too old to play with cars, but then you get a box out and you think, oh, I used to like that one. So I've got all these out and I'm having a play with them. And I thought I'll just put them on the fence because I hung them up. And there's an old Tesoro there. There's the Quest, Q60, Equinox, Rutus, Legend, Deus 2, and then...
So when I ask you what your favourite detector is tonight, you can actually say one. It's on the fence.
That one.
I'm on the fence.
Actually, one of my favourites isn't there. That's I lent it to someone who won't give it back because they enjoy it so much. I won't say what machine it is. But yes, so all good. I hope everyone's all right. And, this hot weather's nice, Rodney Cook. This hot weather's nice, but what a nightmare detecting. Went out on Sunday.
Let's just say, Adrian, before it starts getting any worse, because we are looking at potentially up to 40 degrees next week. You are going out. Be hydrated. Take your water. Take your sunscreen. Don't go stupid because you're going to end up being ill.
Well, I went in a forest on Sunday, forest and a bit of pasture. and it was hot. Took the dog with me because it was in a forest, and housing manager said it'd be nice and cool for the dog, and it was lovely, really nice. I'll tell you what I did though. I come across one of them things, the blue box things with a flashing light on, looks like some sort of Dalek. That when you get close to it, it says the police have been alerted. You're trespassing. I wasn't, but it was on the land near where I was detecting. Have you seen them?
No?
You've seen them? It's like a tripod with a big box on it, with like police hazard tape round it and loads of cameras and LEDs, and it's got a sensor. And if you get near it, a man from a call centre phones and speaks out and says you're going to get arrested and murdered and put in prison. So that's only because I went up to it and looked at it, but I saw one of those at the weekend. I wonder if anyone else has seen one.
Never even heard of them.
Yeah, they're on the Book of Faces. I think some people put them up, but they're designed building works and stuff.
All right.
But yeah,
well, in the last week, we took some flack for last week's guests. Now, I made a post on Facebook. Basically, as I said, we got some flack. Our guests are our guests. We're not Judge Judy and executioner. We don't go out and study who they are and see what they've been doing. If you've got a problem with a guest, that's your own problem. It's your own problem to have publicly or privately with them. As far as we're concerned, we didn't have any issues with last week's guests, and they were great guests, weren't they, Adrian? Yeah. But we had a lot of arse hats in the chat, giving them some grief, which I was able to remove, but also on the Big Detective Show Facebook group. So if we know there's an issue with a person, we won't have a one. A prime example, Jason Massey, detective for veterans. He's been on the show, and we've deleted that episode because, as far as we're concerned, we don't want anything to do with that person. Last week's guests, we didn't know anything. We still don't know anything. It's your own personal issue. Don't take it out on us because we've got full-time jobs. We're trying to do our best. Hell, I only got in from work 25 minutes before the show started, so give us a break, eh? Well, that'll do, Adrian. And thank you. Yeah. Thank you for all the support because there were some fantastic messages off people and some great reactions as well. So we appreciate that wholeheartedly. So thank you to all those nice people. I was quite shocked, actually. It looked like there was 12 people who actually watched the show.
Oh, that's... yes. I don't even know what it was all about, but that's because I'm socially inept. So digitally, anyway. But yeah,
shall we bring on tonight's guests?
Yes.
Marvelous. Here they are. So we've got lots of people here today. We've got lovely Gary Cook, lovely John, whose last name's gone completely out my head, and we've got Ben Shires, who he's better looking than all of us entirely, isn't he? Really,
Dapper is the name, I think. Yeah.
The most dapper gent at RCM last year.
I can remember when Ben walked past the stands, Dave. I think it was composite cleaning pencil, and you looked at me, and we both said, "That gentleman's very dapper," didn't we? And he said,
we actually did say swear words.
No, we didn't. Did we? Or it might have been something else. But yeah, no, we did. And we thought, oh, how cool does he look? Yeah. And you looked so fresh, Ben. Yeah, I think it was like you'd been detecting, but everyone was hot and sweaty and you looked quite cool. But that might have been because I think you had a cravat on. I'm not sure.
Can I just say, firstly, thank you. And secondly, I'm really glad that you got my rider about the show has to start with 5 minutes of compliments. That is very important to my ego. So thank you.
Tick that off. Tick that off. Yeah.
Now don't forget the M&A. It was a brilliant event. I'm so delighted to be on the show, but also to be here with Gary and John as well, because I was at Rodney Cook last year. It was my first big rally. And it couldn't have gone better from my point of view. It's funny, like you say, everyone goes out detecting. It was great weather as well, so everyone's getting really sweaty. And I live in Yorkshire, so the drive down was a fairly substantial one for me. I think on the drive, I had to do work on the drive, so I was judging a children's book award over sort of audio Zoom whilst I was driving down to the rally. And when I got there, I was like, right, I'm switching work emails off. This weekend is just about detecting. And that's what I loved. It was just a joyous coming together of like-minded people. And yeah, I remember our interaction really well, Dave, because you were shouting at me, "You are a well-dressed man," and I was like, "Yeah, found my tribe."
And I was sober.
Yeah.
Ben, for people who don't know you, because there might be one or two, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, well, at the moment, it's this lovely sort of exposed brickwork. But my background is I'm a TV presenter, mainly do kids TV. So I've spent the last 10 years darkening the doorways of CBBC and more recently Sky Kids as well. And, it's something that I love my job. I'm very fortunate to do that. And even more fortunately, now I'm working with Sky Kids. I actually host a show called Dig Detectives, and it's all about metal detecting, particularly for a family audience, which is something I'm hugely passionate about because ever since I was a kid, I had a love of history and the tangibility of it, to be able to hold something. So I was always a collector of coins and artifacts and objects. And for me, detecting ended up becoming a natural progression because I thought, let's cut out the middleman and find the things myself. But, I think there's something about the fascination of history that you can only really get across to kids by letting them see it and hold it and be a part of it physically. And so it's always been a passion of mine, and I get to do it as a job.
Wow. How did Digging Detectives come about, Ben?
Well, so it's probably worth giving you a little bit of background on my own detecting because it all ties in. So I've been one of those kind of long-time listener, first-time caller people when it comes to detecting for a long time. I had like a child's toy detector when I was growing up, and really was keen to go out and do it properly. But I just didn't know anyone. I grew up in Beverley in East Yorkshire, which is absolutely jam-packed with history. If people know it, it's got a 12th century minster. It dates back to sort of Saxon Viking times. So there's loads of great detecting land around there. But I just, as a 11, 12-year-old, couldn't afford to buy a machine and had no one else who was that interested in it. So I kind of used to buy the magazines, buy the books, but just sort of, really engage with it from a distance. And then, life happened. I ended up moving down to London and then working in TV. And London isn't a great place to go detecting largely. So the kind of the idea for it was shelved in terms of a hobby. But then pre-pandemic, my now wife and I moved up to York, and my dad got me a metal detector for Christmas 2019. Having wanted one my whole life, and I eventually got out and started doing it. And immediately I was like, this is not only a brilliant hobby, but it is a great way of talking about history, of getting outdoors, of improving mindfulness, of meeting new people. It's a great thing to document on a TV series. So I pitched it to the lovely lady called Lucy Murphy at Sky. She's got kids. She was in lockdown at the time. She was like, this sounds like what children will want to see and will want to engage with. And we got to make it. We filmed the first series in September of last year, and it was incredible. And it debuted March of this year on Sky, and I think it's now available on Sky Kids, sort of on demand on the app and everything. Now TV as well, you can get it, so you don't have to have a Sky subscription. But it's just joyous to be able to share my love of detecting and history through my job. It couldn't have been the more perfect gig for me. So I just absolutely delighted that it came off.
Fantastic. What, out of interest, what machine did your dad get you?
My dad, well, obviously he had no idea about detectors.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, but I still think he made a solid choice for a starter detector. It was the Garrett Ace 400i.
Yeah.
And I think, whenever you're out on a group dig, someone will always have one, or a 250 or whatever, and they always find something. I'm also a firm believer in, you've got to walk over it. Doesn't matter what machine you've got to know that machine, and you've got to walk over the signal. So, but what happened with me, I had that detector, and then my very first dig, because I didn't have any permissions, I'm sure most people don't when they start out, I went on a group dig in North Yorkshire, and met a guy who's gone on to become a really good friend in detecting, a guy called Russ, who just sort of taught me through the machine, but also said, these are the kind of like upgrades if and when you're thinking of it. And so once I'd used my Garrett for a little while, I just thought I want something that I can adjust a bit more and tinker with, and get to my specifications on the fields that I go on. And that's when I got a second-hand Deus, and that's and now I'm on Deus too. So I'm Team Deus, but most of my friends have got different machines, so I feel like I've had a nice introduction to all sorts of ones, and we use lots of different ones on the show as well. Because obviously, I mean, funnily enough, a Deus is quite a good machine if you're a child, because they're very light and you can adjust the shaft really easily. But we had kind of Vanquish and some of the MIDI Horde ones. Sorry for the flagrant use of shaft there, Dave. I saw you.
We didn't say it
before the show. We said we can't speak about that tonight. We can't mention it.
Yeah. Well, if we're going down that path, don't try and use the voice recognition on your Sky control to get dig detectives, because if you got my accent, you get some inside. I'm not going to say what it is, but I actually recorded it and sent it to my agent. I said, this could be a problem.
Oh, yeah. With voice recognition, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. But luckily we haven't had any irate parents saying you directed my children to pornography. So it seems to have passed by. But yeah, I know that I'm a relative newcomer to detecting. It's my 2-year anniversary in August, so that's in practical terms, but I feel like it's something I've been around and appreciating and loving my whole life. I think it's one of those things. When I started doing it and talked to friends, and I'm sure we've all had this, the amount of people who said, I'd love to do that, or it's something I've always wanted to do, or friends who have shown no interest in anything like that previously have wanted me to take them out and do it, which I've done on many occasions. It's amazing, this kind of inherent thing that it taps into within almost all people, that urge to discover and to uncover and to appreciate and learn. I think it's so good at unifying all those feelings.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. And the reason I asked what machine your dad got you is obviously your dad's not into metal detecting. And one of the things, some people who are keen in taking the hobby up, they go on Amazon, look up the machine that can go down 25 meters and find a submarine in a mile away, believe everything, buy it, go out and don't find anything, and then when they go on a rally, someone will say, where the hell did you get that? So it's always good to go to a dealer or speak to someone. But yeah, Garrett, great machine for a first machine. Your dad done well there. And you got the Deus now, Deus 2. How are you finding the Deus 2?
I mean, I'm loving it so far. I've got to say, I mean, I'm one of those sadders who keeps a tally of everything that I found and, where I found it and all the rest of it. I love that kind of, I mean, I think it's important anyway for just kind of historical context, but also my sort of obsession that has been lifelong of kind of documenting things, charting them, knowing where and when. It sort of really all comes to the fore when it comes to detecting. So I know exactly what I found with the Deus 2, and I can compare it to exactly what I found with the Deus 1. Obviously, it's just getting to the time when a lot of permissions are opening up now. So I've not gone on a lot of my permissions for the first time yet with the Deus 2. But the ones that have been available, I've only got one main one that's available at the moment, and I've been going there the last couple of weeks. And obviously, it's all chance. It's all where you walk. It's all the conditions of the soil and the weather and everything. But I've had on a permission that gave me 1.5 hammers all last year. I've had 4 in a week. On the Deus 2. And that's not to say that it's the machine. It could be any number of things, but I can only go by what I've seen it do so far. And it seems to be working out really well for me. I'll caveat that by saying I haven't done the latest update. And I know you'll always see things flying around online about it. But I don't, I mean, here's the thing. If anyone from Deus watches this, why can't you update it on a Mac or any Apple run products? I mean, it's not like that's an obscure operating system anymore. I don't have a PC, so I have to wait till I go to like my sister's house where her daughter has her laptop, and I can update it on that. So it's a little bit of a frustration, but it stopped me from updating it. And whether the updates are good or bad, I can't really say. But I think I'm in version 6 or something like that at the moment. So one of the previous updates, and it seems to run really well for me.
That's interesting because Rutus, the Rutus Atrix machine that just came out, you can update that on your phone, Android, iOS, or a Mac, or a PC, or even a tablet. You just basically go into, it's got an IP address, the machine, and a built-in Wi-Fi, and you can do it on any device and update it in the field or anywhere. No leads or wireless. And I think, well, Rutus aren't a big company. Little Polish company can do that. Why can't the bigger manufacturers do it? And because you're doing that, you're not having to send another lead out with the machine. There's no software updates like, are you running Windows 7, 10, 11, and all this. It's all down to your handheld. And it's true, because I think Nocta originally, Nocta Macro, didn't have an installer for Macs. They have now. But it's a very popular... I've got Apple Macs and PCs, and some people just have an Apple Mac, and it's a big popular machine. So I'm surprised they aren't listening more, and I agree with what you say on that.
Yeah, I mean, not that I want to get into. I mean, we've all got our sort of loves and loathes about our machine. I love Deus' operating system. I love the weight of it. I love the swing of it. I love what it can find. And one thing I remember having this conversation prior to them releasing Deus 2 was, let's just get the coil connector a bit better this time. I cannot believe we got the same system again, those 2 pins, and Deus users will know how frustrating it can be. I actually have to weigh it down with a bit of old lead that I've found, just so it stays on and touches the content, because I just don't think it's a very good system for charging. And I'm always paranoid. A couple of times I've gone out and my coil's not fully charged.
You've just made Adrian actually look at his machine then, so he's just realised that you're right.
No, where the coil cover goes over the coil, it makes it a little bit tighter. And on when I had the first Deus 2, I had the small coil, and it was really tight. But then I got the larger coil for the Deus 2, and it's a lot better. But I don't know why you can't have like a magnetic, like a Knox or a Quest, or a little magnetic clip on. I don't know why, but
no, it's just one of those things. Like I say, I absolutely love that machine, and I'm willing to accept little foibles on it to use it. But it's just, I guess, sometimes I think when you there's very few things, maybe apart from my phone, that I use as a device as much as I use my detector. And so you get to know it quite well, don't you? You get to know the shaft intimately, Dave, and you know what it should do and what it shouldn't. And you do start to pick up on those things. But I don't know. It's one of those things about detecting. It always makes me laugh. People say, "No, this machine's better, that machine's better." I've seen the most amazing things found with the worst machines, and vice versa. Yeah. I mean, I found loads of tat on a top of the range machine. I found loads of great stuff too. I just think it's, you've got to be a competent user. You've got to have a good permission. If you've got those things, a metal detector should work whatever one it is.
Do you tweak, Ben, or do you stick to the factory program?
Good question, Gary. I actually have a few of my own modified programs, particularly because I've got one pasture permission around York, and it's produced some brilliant finds. But it's not been ploughed for, I don't know if it's ever been ploughed. So some of it is really deep. So I want to hit that depth, and I just didn't feel it's basically on the Deus 2. It's a modified deep HC. So I think for me, I think it just punches that bit deeper.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if I'm on pasture, if I'm on arable, at the moment I'm just using I think it's the Sensi FT program on Deus 2, which I think is just the hot program, really, from previous iterations. But that seems to work well. I'm going to field test it a bit more and see if I need to modify it going forward. But it took me a while. I think as a newbie detectorist, I was really cautious about doing my own programs or making any adjustments. I just didn't feel I knew enough But again, it's just putting in the hours, isn't it? Getting the experience, knowing what certain things sound like. But then I say all that, and genuinely, every time I told you, I found 4 hammers this week. Before I dug that signal each time, I would not have said that they were a hammered coin. Every single one sounded different and weird, and it's super dry ground. Some of them were like on their edge. You know, obviously there's loads of different factors which determine it. So I think I know my machine, but I can't always predict what a signal's going to be, even now.
Yeah, you can get different signals for different types of, you know, I don't think people realise quite how many different things can cause the machine to react in so many different ways. The signals can differentiate between different targets. You know, I as you know, I've used XP from the very beginning. When I bought an Aventis, which was my very first XP machine, pretty much their first machine that they brought out. And so many different things can affect your detecting experience, you know, whether it's weather conditions, soil conditions, mineralization, ionization, habitation, you know, artifacts and coins on edge, bits of irons near a coin, you know. And that's why whenever people ask me for advice, I say the first thing to do when you buy a machine with a VDI screen is to put the controller, if you can, in your pocket, which you can with the Deus, and learn the sounds and learn the signals first, because that's the most important thing for metal detectorist, is to learn the sounds, what the machine is telling you, because the VDI screen can be affected in so many ways, regarding, like I just said, with all the different factors that can cause the machine to give a different number. It can mess with your head and it can mess with your brain, and you automatically think a low number, oh, that's going to be something rubbish, you know. But it could be a piece of iron next to it, which is causing that. You know, I've had a Saxon skeet come in at about 27 on the Deus 1, and it was next to an iron nail. Now you could quite easily have disregarded that signal, but there was something in the signal, just a little tweak, that made me stop and think, I'm gonna dig that, because there's something in there that is slightly different. And I know it's an old cliche in the hobby and it's an old saying, but I've always said, if you've got any doubt, dig it out, because you won't know until you actually dig it. You can walk past a signal and say, oh, that was rubbish, but unless you actually dig it, you don't really know what it is, because it could be so many things, as I say, causing that signal to come across as a bad signal.
Totally agree with that, Gary. 100%. I test machines for Treasure Hunting magazine, Ben, and I have to dig every signal I get, and I have to dig iron to make sure it's iron, and I have to dig, and it's amazing. Like you say, and Gary says the weather, whether it's sunny, whether it's been lightning, whether the ground's wet, whether there's a lot of mineralization, EMC, there's so many different things, and so many people, I think, overly rely on too much technology, the display, the graph and everything. You know, you go back 20 odd years ago, you had none of that. It's just purely tones. And there's a really good guy on YouTube called Holds Hammer Sagas, who we've had on the show, haven't we, Dave? And he's got a Deus Lite. I don't know if you've seen him, Ben. Have you?
I religiously watch his videos.
Ah, great, yeah.
Brilliant. He's got the most plummy accent, hasn't he? I think
he's a lovely gentleman. Yes, yes.
Honestly, I mean, he's such a great detectorist. I think he is one of the purest. I know exactly where you're driving at with this, Adrian, because he's got the Deus Lite, hasn't he? And he can just tell by the tone, by the length of it, if it's clipped, if it's he always says it's bright. And I'm like, oh, he likes it. But you know, that's because he knows his machine that well that he can tell each flicker and bleep and fart means something. And I think that is mastery of the hobby.
He knows his machine, and he loves it as well. You can tell he loves the hobby, and like we were all saying earlier, whether you've got a £99 machine from Tandy from 1984, or you've got the latest Deus or Equinox or Legend, as long as you go out and have a nice day, I mean, what can be worse? Walking in the countryside all day long and with a mate or some mates, lovely. I love it. This time of year when the harvest's been done, there's so much nature about and the weather's lovely. Sunday I went out with my mate detecting. We probably spent 2 or 3 hours investigating this forest, looking at old sheds and looking at old things, broken farm machinery, and like kids playing on it. And then we realised we should have been detecting. But it's getting out there, isn't it, and relaxing. And with your job, obviously, there's quite a bit of pressure in producing shows and stuff and learning scripts and stuff like that. Do you find you completely turn off when you're out in the field?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it was a really kind of useful thing for me in terms of just getting a little bit of perspective during the pandemic as well. I know it's become something of a cliche within sort of, the wider media that people were taking up detecting because they had more time and you could socially distance and all the rest of it. But I do think there was truth in it. And for me, it certainly gave me something to do when, because my job is so dependent on things like being able to travel, and travel was highly restricted, or being in the same room as a lot of people, and that was really impacted. So it was something to keep me sane between work as well. And then I've always been one of those people who has a thing. It was when I was growing up, it was collecting, and then it was being in, the band, and then it was this, that, and the other. And so if I'm in big time. And detecting has just kind of got me. I absolutely. It's one of those things. It's so funny, isn't it? You speak to detectors, and they just give you that sort of that nod of recognition. It's like it impacts on every part of your life in ways that you would never have imagined. Like you're driving along and you can't just stop looking at the fields either side.
Yeah.
I wonder.
My wife finds it hilarious because if there was a girl on one side of the road in a very short skirt and a ploughed and rolled field on the right hand side of the road, I'd be looking to the right.
Yeah.
looking at the field.
Should I follow it? I mean, maybe it's nice. There's things like that, or I'm sort of looking at my schedule, going, okay, well, I've got an afternoon free there, and maybe I could just get out for a couple of hours on the field and things like that. I mean, we've been really lucky. We just had our little boy at the end of last year. He's 9 months old now, and he's an absolute joy. But obviously, that's another responsibility and something that I don't want to miss out on him growing up. So, detecting, as much as I love it, it's got to fit in with my other commitments as well. Yeah. I think it's the kind of thing that if I'm having a bad day, I want to go detecting. If I'm having a good day, I want to go detecting. It's the kind of, it's the salve to all of life's ups and downs, And I used to be, I think the reason why a lot of people give up on detecting early on, and I think there are quite a few people who do this, they expect it's all going to come easy and they find things straight away and all the rest of it. And I was desperate to find a hammered coin. And of course, I didn't find anything of significance for the first couple of months. But I realised actually that it was the act of going out and the research beforehand and the meeting people and all the rest of it. That's what made me want to come back. And then making the finds, actually, as brilliant as they were, ceased being the reason I wanted to go out. I wanted to go out because I love the whole process of it. I love packing my bag before I go. I love the drive where I might listen to an audio book. And
I remember
it becomes ritual, doesn't it? And
I remember having a one-on-one with the late great John Lynn, aka the Norfolk Wolf, and he was teaching me the XPs and going through things with me, and I was very, very privileged to have some one-on-one detecting time with him. And I always remember him saying to me, "You know what, Gary? You'll never look at a field in a different way again, and your life will now never be the same." And that's what he said to me. And he was an amazing guy, and I was very privileged to be able to meet him a few times. And he wrote the book Advanced Detecting, and I would recommend anyone who's taking up the hobby to buy that book, because he was probably one of the most knowledgeable detecting God probably I've ever known, and he was just an incredible man. And we lost him way too soon, and he was fantastic. But as I say, I always remember what he said to me: "You'll never look at a field in the same way again, and your life will never be the same again."
I agree. That book, Advanced Detecting, Gary, is my favourite metal detecting book.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's only about that thick. It's not a big book, A5, but it's got so much common sense in it that we all forget in the hobby. And I read it probably every year, just like flick through the odd pages, and oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, he's right. Yeah, that's why that happened. And it's written in as if you're talking to him, isn't it, Gary? It's not.
Taught me everything I knew about the Gold Max Power, and I've still got that Gold Max Power in my garage, and I still take her out for a test every so often. And what he didn't know, he would forget more about detecting than I will ever know. He was just an amazing chap. He really was. And that book, as you say, Adrian, is if you ever have an issue, or you ever have a problem, or you ever think to yourself, just pick up that book and read it.
I'll send you a copy, Ben. Yeah,
you know what? I'd love to see it. A friend of mine who's great at IDing short cross pennies. So often going, can you have a look at this? But he recommended that book to me, and I remember because the name is so distinctive as well. But I think again, it's that kind of hobby where, like I say, I had a bit of a mentor who really kind of helped usher me into it in my early days, and I think you really need those people. But it's also brilliant because there's so many people willing to help and willing to lend a hand and share their knowledge and experience, and that's something that I've really appreciated, that it is this kind of real community out there. And obviously in my job I get to meet a lot of people and what have you, and I really like that I can I can be a detectorist and just be all about detecting and go as deep into it as I want to go. And people out there just love it. I mean, usually my wife is stood somewhere in the background rolling her eyes. Like it's amazing, isn't it, how quickly you can turn any given conversation into detecting. Usually on the hunt for a new permission, because that's always how I get my permissions. I'm like, I've got a show actually about metal detecting. You don't know anyone who's got a farm, do you? Because that's normally how it tends to work. But
my wife hates it. Whenever we go out and meet people at a party, I'm always like, what do you do for a job? And they'll say, I'm a farmer. Oh, are you? Or and like my wife goes, I don't know. Or someone will say something like, did you see that bloke the other week who found that gold hoard? And I'll go, oh, well, actually. And then someone will say, Adrian does metal detecting. That's it. I'm off. I'm happy then. I can talk about it all night. And everyone's interested, apart from my wife. Everyone's interested in it. So
whenever I'm in the builders merchants and there's a guy with wellies on with, on his boots, the first thing I say is, are you a farmer? Oh, yes, yeah. And then you start talking about something, and then you just got to, because at the end of the day, if you don't, you've let an opportunity go by. And it's the one thing that, because we're obsessive with the hobby, and we get to a point where, it does take over our lives. My work colleague sits in the van with me, and I'm driving along, and he goes, look at that. He doesn't metal detect. He goes, look at those humps. Look at those bits there. And all the time, and I've got him looking all around, because we get passionate about what we want to do, and and we enjoy it so much. And as like you said, Ben, once you start in the hobby and you meet new people, and people are helpful and friendly and stuff, it's just a great sort of community that people just get involved in, and it's just fantastic.
Sorry.
Oh, go on.
No, and
I'm just going to butt in and say,
no, Dave, you can wait. You wait.
No, I'm just this is John. Is it John Lydell or Liddell?
Lydell.
This is John Lydell, ladies and gentlemen. He's joined us tonight with Gary, and he joined in. Sorry, just introducing. Carry on.
I normally wait for Gary to finish before I start.
Well, we finish at 9:30, so.
We could be here all night.
With Gary on, we will.
I'll go on for hours, actually. normally I'm quite chatty. I'm just enjoying the experience at the moment, and obviously, yeah, it's just great to see everybody enjoy themselves in this hobby. And obviously, we're obviously going to talk about a bit later about the RCM and what it means, and the run up to it and everything else. And it's to be able to, for Ben especially, when he came to the RCM last year, and obviously it was his first time. The thing that we want to do, and we try to make sure of, is that it doesn't matter what your experience is with metal detecting. When you come along to the rally, it's all about actually getting involved, getting out in the fields. If you don't know something, ask somebody, and it's just an enjoyable experience. And everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to get involved and teach people stuff, and it's it's a great way. I think the first rally I ever went on was quite a few years ago, and until I went on a rally, I didn't go with Gary. I went with one of my other friends. It sort of opened my eyes to actually more of the hobby and meeting people that are very like-minded and enjoy it as much as you do, and it's a great thing to do, and it's a great community to get involved in, and you suddenly feel like you're part of something which is far greater and bigger than what you ever imagined it would be. I didn't imagine when I first took up a metal detector. I'd done a little bit on the beach with one of those cheap ones, in my 20s, but when my friend gave me his old metal detector and I started, I went out in the field the first day, found a cartwheel penny. I was hooked, and then from then on, you just move forward. And then when you start to go to rallies and you meet people, and you actually realize this is a fantastic hobby that we're involved in, and you get so much enjoyment out of it. And it takes over, because everything you do, you look at a field and you think, whoa, what's in that field? And, you look over to the pasture's green, as they say, on the other side, what's on the other side of the hill and stuff like that. And it's just a fantastic thing to be able to get involved in, and I do find actually as well, I started now, so if you won't shout, yeah. But you do find
I learned from the master.
Yeah, no, you do find that actually when you start metal detecting and you get passionate about it, if you can get my daughter metal detects as well, and obviously she does stuff at the RCM as well, it's a great pleasure to actually have families involved in what you do. I mean, Norfolk Button Boy with his wife and daughter, you watch their videos and you think, well, actually, they really enjoy it as a family. They spend a lot of time doing it, and you get a lot of quality time out of actually metal detecting. I've asked my wife several times. She definitely won't come metal detecting, but I mean, for some people it is a great family adventure as well.
Yeah, I agree, John. I think what's nice is people like Nocta Macro and Deus as well. You can use the machines can be used easily by kids, and I think the way that Nocta promoted the MIDI Horde and the Mini Horde, it looked like a toy, but it in the box it wasn't a toy, and it's a great little machine. And I lent it to a guy at work whose son was interested in metal detecting. Actually, Ben, I bet he's watched your program. I should mention it tomorrow. He's only 8 or 9, and he went out in the Mini Horde. Sorry,
your mate's 8 or 9.
No, his son, my mate's son. Well, it's my director actually, but they went out all over Christmas with the MIDI Horde, like friends' fields and stuff like that. And he said he was hooked on it, absolutely hooked on it. And he found an old, old penny, like 1914 penny, which to us, we find those fairly often. But to an 8 or 9 year old kid thinking, wow, that's over 100 years old. And he's hooked. He's hooked now. He loves it. And he said he's got an Xbox and a PlayStation, like a lot of kids. He said, but he can say, do you want to go detecting? Yep. And they're out. And I think that's lovely, because a lot of kids are stuck indoors. And if you can take your son or your daughter, or like me, your dog, out with you detecting, there's a bond there. And it reminds me of when I was growing up with my dad. We had computers, but I think the more you can get out there and bond with your family, the better. And I was just reading a comment in the chat actually from Derek Parker. He started, yeah. I mean, that sums it up, really. Love the hobby. Many true words coming through on the programme. Nice to see you tonight, Derek. But yeah, it's
you show newbie.
Yeah, whoop whoop whoop. He's won the prize. No, we haven't got a prize. Ben, what does your wife? I presume you're married.
One of the metal detectors behind Adrian is your prize. You can choose any detector you want behind Adrian as a prize.
The C-Scope Evo 6000 he can have. No, we move on. Ben, has your I presume you're married.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. What does is your wife shown any interest or?
Do you know what? My wife is brilliant. Just wholesale. She's great. And she's obviously a lucky lady. But she is also really open to indulging my ridiculous hobbies and whims and all the rest of it. And she's very patient as well. I think that's one of her sort of defining traits is her patience with me. And so she's actually been out detecting a few times with me. I think more to kind of, well, she certainly was detecting curious, but she was also wanting to, just spend some time with me and see what I was up to. And I mean, the first time I took her out, she found a Victorian penny and a little bit of silver, nothing discernible, but it literally said silver on it. So it was like, this is a good run for your first time. And I think it's one of those things with sort of family and detecting, as I think we've all been echoing. It's like sometimes people will want to get involved, sometimes then it's not their thing. But I still had loads of support from like my wife. She doesn't want to go out with me every time, but I think she sees what I get out of it and the value that I get out of it, and how much it's something that lifts my mood and gives me something to look forward to, and all the rest of it. And to be honest, far better that I'm spending a Sunday out in a field rather than going to the local boozer and just kind of coming back and being in a bad mood or something like that. I think there's loads of kind of ancillary benefits to detecting. Mental health, physical health, all the rest of it. I actually saw in the chat as well that Julie Argent of the Argent Detecting family is sort of saying that her family has been doing it together for years. And I met Julie on Rodney Cook last year, and we had a lovely chat. And I've watched some of the Argent Detectress videos, and you just see the bond. Each of the family members is so happy, slightly jealous sometimes, but always loves seeing each other find some of the amazing things that they dig up as well. I mean, gosh, the gold coins that they seem to snaffle out is incredible. But that's my dream for when my son's a bit older. I mean, the process of indoctrination starts now. So I sit in when I'm feeding him, watching YouTube videos, all our favourites, and Holzhammer's sagas, and because of Rodney Cook as well, lucky to have met and befriended some of the people that I watched, Norfolk Button Boy and Dukes of Derbyshire and Digger Dawn and people like that. And we sit and watch the videos together, and I don't know whether it's having any effect on him, but something must be soaking in subliminally.
Well, where you've just been on all day with him, I think will help as well.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. Yeah, took him. We went on honeymoon with him all around sort of Europe, sort of the Med, and we went up to the Acropolis. We went round, some of the Roman sites in Croatia. Wow. So yeah, my wife is a classics teacher, so she loves her history anyway, which is onto a good thing for me. And I'm sure that one day our little boy will either embrace it or completely rebel against it, and it'll be all about modernity and that's it. But I'd love to think that he's he's going to be a detectorist one day. I mean, the non-negotiable is he's got to be a Leeds United fan. So I mean that is where I draw the line. If he wants to take up detecting as well, I'd be thrilled.
No, that's lovely. And how did you get to know about Rodney Cook? How did you find out about the rally? Social media or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inescapable. Really, if you're in the detecting community, and I say this as the kind of it's like the thing. Like if you're into films, you go to film conventions. If you're into detecting, you go to Rodney Cook, and it's the gathering point, in the highlight of the detecting year. And I think when Regton's, because the problem for me was last year it was, well, same day every year, I suppose. It's early September, but my son was due within sort of 3 or 4 weeks of that. So I didn't really bother looking at tickets because I thought if he comes early or anything. Anyway, it's getting closer to the day, and it looked like he wasn't going to come early. And yeah, Regton's very kindly got in touch. So I've been speaking to them, and they were brilliant about providing detectors for the show, dig detectors that we did. And so they invited me down as a guest, and managed to arrange it quite last minute because, like I say, I hadn't booked a ticket for fear that I wouldn't be able to go. And then I turned up, and it was just it was brilliant. And it's one of those things that people talk about, you know, in the much wider sphere. I think they sort of say, "Are you going this year?" And you know, I know there's other rallies as well, but sort of big events. But to me, it just felt, I don't know, that there's something, because it's so charity focused, because it's all, you know, Gary and his family, and it's tight knit. It feels like you know the people, and you know, I'm not criticizing other rallies because I've not been on them, but for me, that appeals more than sort of the slightly more faceless brand, if you like. For me, it's Gary and his family putting on a lovely big rally where we can all go along and enjoy ourselves, rather than you know, something a bit more nebulous.
You hit the nail on the head there, Ben, when you say the word family. We use that word quite a lot at the RCM, because that's what we are. And we don't mean that as a sales gimmick. We are one family. Adrian, Dave, all of us, John, all the team, we're all family. Everybody who comes, we all come to the RCM for one reason, and that is to come together as a hobby and to try and generate that feel-good factor with all of us, and to have that we all know someone or have been affected by cancer somewhere along the line. You know, the frightening statistic is 1 in 2 people, which is a scary, scary, scary thought. And we all know someone who's had cancer, or friend, family member, you know, and that's where it comes from. As I've said many times, the RCM was born from tragedy. It was born from the death of my father from cancer, and I came together with my best friends and put an idea to them, and that's how it's grown. And I always say it's completely blown me out of the water how it came from a small idea in my tiny little brain to try and do something to help people, and to help the people who are suffering, and the amazing people in the hospitals. And I wanted to just do something small, like a one-day event in the club, and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew, and this little idea expanding, and to the point now where so many people in this hobby have taken it under their wing. And he doesn't like me to blow his trumpet, but Adrian up there does a hell of a lot for the RCM, a hell of a lot. And he keeps it to himself. He doesn't like to blow his own trumpet, but I blow his trumpet for him sometimes.
Whoa, it's a kid's show.
I was waiting for you, Dave, to come back with that. But Adrian does so much for this rally. And it's my opportunity when I come on here to make him listen to my thank you, and for John. Yeah. Because Adrian does so much for the website, the ticketing line, and he does a lot behind the background, and he's an amazing chap, and we all love him. And he's part of the RCM family, the same as we all, as I said, you know, for something tragic to have what we've done now at the RCM, and we try to install that in every person who comes to the rally, the camaraderie, the friendship. We're not there to promote ourselves or to promote a manufacturer or anybody. We're there for one reason: to have a great weekend, to remember those who we lost, in memory of my dad, Rodney, and anyone else who we've lost or is suffering. And if we can just put some happiness into people's lives through the RCM and raise some money for charity. That's what we do.
I think one of the things that we actually, especially for myself, obviously being in it from the start, and obviously the concept, the idea, and stuff like that. I think after the lockdown and missing a year and coming back and doing it, I think one of the things that actually struck me after we finished the rally and we're all done, we've packed up, we've gone home, and you can actually sit back and reflect on what the rally means to people. Obviously, the big part of it is actually raising a phenomenal amount of money, but the real part of it is actually there's so many people that come to our rally that have been affected themselves personally and have, a great desire to get involved. To their presence there makes them feel needed and wanted, and part of actually the RCM family. And I think that's actually is a very, very difficult thing to portray to people, but it's the warmth and friendliness you get from people, and the actual overall desire to get involved. And it goes beyond just a group of people metal detecting. It is a family, and I think that's where we realise that the importance of it now, and the actual need to keep going and to keep doing it, and to just want to actually drive to get it spot on every time, I think.
Well, you do that, John and Gary and everyone at RCM. It's always spot on. And I think, like you said, John, it raises money for charity. But when I talk to people and, like, I don't know, friends will say, oh, we've got a barbecue on September the 2nd of September. What? Or the 4th of September. And I'll sort of say, I can't come. Why? I'll go into a metal detecting rally. Oh, I say it's a charity one, and they raise 50,000-60,000 pounds plus in a weekend. They're like, sorry? And I'm like, yeah. How do they do that? I said, well, people pay for tickets, and there's raffles and prizes, and they think, oh, that's a lot of money. I think, yeah, you might read about it in your local news, that big, but then you'll find one person who's detecting illegally, and then it's like a full-page advert.
Yeah.
The media love the negatives, but not just Rodney Cook. There's other events that make loads of money for charity, and I'd love someone one day to tally up all the money that metal detecting makes and donates in the UK each year, because we're talking hundreds of thousands, and it's a lot of money that goes in from the hobby, and everyone enjoys making it and in doing it. There's no sponsored walks or cycle rides or anything ridiculous like. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but we were all in the Cubs once, and we had to do that sponsored walk, which we all hated. But yeah, it rakes a lot of money. And this year, I think, Gary, it's going to be even bigger, isn't it? Possibly.
Well, are we ready to talk RCM and what we've got planned now?
Not 5 minutes before the end.
Say yeah.
No.
When Dave tells me it's our turn to talk about the RCM.
Ben can throw at it. Ben can now. Gary's been doing this thing all night. He's been auditioning to be a future potential co-host on the show. John is lovely assistant, obviously. So now Ben, if Ben wants to audition to be a celebrity co-host in the near future, then I'm sure you can throw any questions in. And I don't know if you've noticed the product placement tonight as well, but this is all started by Gary constantly drinking out of his Dig Life cup.
Oh, dear. Probably got sherry in it.
Yeah, very subtle, Dave. I enjoyed that a lot. Well, I'm going to have to dash in a second, but I'll leave you. Well, firstly, by thanking everyone for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to come and just chat with like-minded people, with people like Gary and John who put on such an incredible event, and Dave and Adrian, you've made me feel so welcome, and I can't wait to see you all in September again.
Looking forward to it, Ben.
Yeah, but I think one of the things about our hobby is that it brings in people from all different backgrounds, different jobs, different everything, and they all come together and they have something to talk about and do for a whole weekend, and that's a rare thing, and it's something to be cherished and to be valued, and it's something that certainly added to my life in a really positive way. So it's lovely to do a show like this where we can just chat, amongst friends about stuff that we all love. So I could chat for a lot longer, and I'm sure we will when it comes to the rally.
Gary, well, don't worry about that.
But in the meantime, love you and leave you. I see there's been some speculation in the chat about my true identity, so I can't reveal too much. But let's just say, no, I'm not.
It's an absolute pleasure. And before you go, when you're doing your next season of Dig Detectives, I'm sure there's a colleague of, friend and colleague of ours, Graham Dempsey, who we'd like to probably put in touch with you, because part of your next season could be the kids cleaning the fines with the composite pencils and whatnot. And I'm sure we can hook it up there.
Yeah. Now, I've spoken to Graham before. He's a lovely chap, so I'll certainly
recommend
it next time round. Well, fellas, enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure having you,
Lovely.
Ben. Speak
Nice
soon.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Oh, wasn't he a bore? God, dear. Glad he's gone. No, lovely guy.
Now,
what a lovely
guy. All right. Certainly was.
Gary and John. No, lovely guy, Ben. Really nice.
Yeah, I remember seeing him last year at the rally, and I'm exactly the same as what you said. I thought that's the best dressed metal detectorist I've ever seen in my life.
I know, and we know Luke.
I thought maybe he just finished working in his bank and he's come straight out into the field or something, because he was so well dressed. It's unbelievable.
We know Luke, and he put Luke to shame. He made Luke look like Stig.
Yeah. Luke had brogues on, though. I think Ben had walking boots, so maybe he needs Chelsea boots this year. But we've got John and Gary on now.
Hello.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a pleasure actually to be on the show. It's the first time I've ever actually done anything like this. So obviously, it's a little bit getting a word in with Gary talking all the time. It can be quite difficult, but it was great to hear Ben's talking about the kids and everything else. And obviously, as I said before, I don't think people really understand with our hobby how beneficial it is for people to get children involved in it, and because it's such an enjoyable thing. I mean, I started working on a farm when I left school, and I was out in the countryside all the time, and has its benefits now actually, because I know a lot of farmers. But when you actually go and do other jobs, like I don't work in farming side of anything anymore, and to be able to go out in the field and just be there. I can give you an incident. I'll tell you a little story. About a few weeks ago, myself and Gary and Neil were in the field, metal detecting, and I had a fantastic day. I had two great finds, which was a Saxon Edward the Elder penny, nearly complete, which I've never had one before, which was fantastic. And then I had a Hod-Hild Roman brooch. He thought I'd found a gold state or something, because I was jumping up and down with excitement, because I love Roman brooches. I mean, the Tudor penny to him, he's just like, oh yeah, it's another Roman. Oh, it's complete. Yeah, it's but for me, and it was a fantastic day. And actually, at the end of the day, I sat down in the field, like you say. I sat down in the field for 5 minutes whilst they were gassing down the other end of the field, and thought to myself, do you know what? I'm so lucky to have some great friends in the hobby, and to do something that I love doing out in the countryside, in the fresh air. What could be better?
Neil Cleveland as well always has us in stitches. He's probably one of the most funniest guys. He from the moment we step into the field with him, we're just laughing our off. He is some of the things he comes out with is just absolutely incredible, and it is so funny. And we just, as soon as he's walking towards you, I'm thinking I've got to prepare myself now for another laughing fit, because my sides are going to hit. He's an RCM organizer. He's one of the marshals and helps, and he's a fantastic guy. And yeah, I can't speak highly of Neil.
Yeah.
He's lovely.
Yeah.
I think just looking here, can you see that, Dave?
That's the
one.
Yep. Lovely.
How nice is that?
Very.
That's my first one of them, so
These are all on the Trowbridge District Metal Detecting Club website, and there's some unbelievable finds on there.
There's his coin. There's his coin, Adrian. If you scroll back up.
Oh, that one.
That one. No, up a little bit more. No, keep going up.
Oh, this one.
That on the right. Yeah, middle right.
That one looked like a big widgie then that you put on.
How lovely is that?
Isn't it? Hey, talking of nice coins, Adrian, if you remember on last week's show with the Berserker searches, we were talking about their dig on the following Sunday. Yeah, they had a scattered denarius hoard up.
Oh,
so
lovely.
Well done to them.
Well,
just
lovely.
maybe think on then.
Well, it's lucky coming on the show, but it's funny, John, because I'm the same. I haven't found a fibula for about 4 or 5 years now. Found everything else, all the bucket listers everyone else wants, but I love Roman brooches, and I've been desperate for a fibula so fingers crossed, maybe this weekend or next weekend. But I love coins, don't get me wrong, but Roman brooches and stuff, I think it's amazing.
You have to come out with us one day, Adrian. We'll take you on the Roman site. And
what about me?
Yeah, and you, Dave.
No, two of us here, you know.
It's a long way from Liverpool. Mate.
We're a team here, you know. It's two of us.
Yeah, I will do, Gary. I will.
Hold on. What I was thinking, Adrian, is that better?
Yeah, no, I will do, Gary. I'll come out one day. I'll stay in a hotel. I won't stay around your house because.
And you, Dave, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Yeah, actually, that'd be good.
Need to invite you, Dave. It goes without saying. You have an open invite anytime you want.
I just thought I was an afterthought, much like when my mum got pregnant, really. Gary, you've got lots to tell us about Rodney Cook this year, and obviously, me and Adrian know some of it, but let's reveal some more. Well,
this year, obviously, the RCM is running into its fourth year. Obviously, we were hit with the COVID year. So, but every year, as we say, it's got bigger and bigger and bigger. But this year, we've have XP coming over from France this year. They're sending a contingent from France. Nocta Macro Dilic will be personally coming as well with a few guys and girls from Nocta. Garrett, obviously from Texas, will be there in force again, like they were last year. And we will have representatives, I think, from C-Scope, and we're hoping possibly somebody from Rutus and Mind Lab will be there. The old regulars, Leisure Promotions and Regden will obviously be joining us again. Don't forget you guys at the Big Detecting Show and the Archmag will obviously be in strong attendance. Did I mention we have Wi-Fi, Dave?
About the what, sorry?
Wi-Fi.
No, you've not mentioned that, Gary.
I've not mentioned it. I'll be my... but obviously, Treasure Hunting Magazine and Searcher will be there. And this year, there's a couple of new things. The first one is we are very privileged. We have touched on it with you guys before. We have Sphinx, who are going to be coming with the Sphinx marquee. They will be doing appraisals all weekend, and they will be doing a charity Sphinx auction, which Greg will be running. That will probably happen sometime in between coming off the field detecting on Saturday and the RAF Ball. So Greg will be doing a charity Sphinx auction, and they will be making a exciting announcement exclusive to the Rodney Cook. I don't really know exactly what it is yet. I know roughly an idea, but they are keeping it a little bit of a secret, and as a so an exclusive to the rally. I think even Adrian probably knows what it is because Adrian knows everything.
It's big. It's big. It's big in our hobby.
So yeah, and one fantastic thing we have organised this year, and it's something that we're really excited about. We have the honour and the privilege of welcoming, if I can say it. Is that right?
Welcoming, yeah.
Friday night entertainment is going to be the TV's Comedy Store.
Brilliant.
And we will have 4 mainline TV comedians, all of which have been on shows like Have I Got News for You, Never Mind the Buzzcocks, all that sort of stuff. And one of them has their own TV show on BBC. And we will be announcing the lineup nearer the time. And they will be doing a full comedy night in the main marquee on the Friday. So we want it packed.
Yeah, packed, definitely packed. The same on the Saturday night with obviously the band. The band of it's actually a friend of sort of acquaintance friend of mine that his band's been going for quite a few years now, and they've got a new drummer, and they've been obviously through lockdown. They were struggling a bit because obviously couldn't do anything, and obviously they're back full force now, and they're a great band. They've learned some new songs from last time. A funny story is the first or the second RCM they came to, one of the chaps that comes along that was dressed as Pikachu kept saying, play Foo Fighters all night long. So I said to him, look, you've got to learn a song for next year. So he learned a song for next year, and he wasn't interested last year, which is it was quite amusing at the time, but they didn't find it funny. But yeah, it's obviously we have other stuff as well. Hopefully Phil the coffee guy is going to be doing his Mexican stand this year, so we're going to have tacos and stuff like that. Yeah.
Are we going to have a Greek couple doing some gear art? No. I was so looking forward to that.
I know. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of an incident with the Greek people. They disappeared into the night on the Saturday night and left without making any donations, and we've never heard from them since.
Steve Newman, tell Steve Newman. He'll find them. He'll kill them and gut them.
They caused a bit of an upset with a few people, i.e. the bar. They started selling alcohol and they didn't have a license, so they had to stop doing that. And then they were
fair, Gary. They didn't actually serve me alcohol. They forced alcohol on me, which was nice. I can't condone that.
So we haven't asked the Greek, but John, we've got a great alternative. We will be having a fantastic Mexican stall, hopefully. With all things Mexican. So
lovely.
So
Volkswagen Beetles and brilliant.
It's gonna be a good one. But one thing we didn't say. Now you remember last year we had the Gators picking people up.
You did.
And taking them up to the fields, bringing them back. A lot of tired people out there, and it saved their little legs. This year, we are going to take it up onto the next level. And we will have a designated bus route set up around the site. So,
I thought you were going to say you were going to have actual Gators carrying people on the back.
No, that would be funny. We have got obviously the beater box, trailer box back with the Gators, and we will be having it as a bus route. The bus stops will be all around the site. The bus route is sponsored by or supported by, I don't use the word sponsor, supported by Leisure Promotions. So you will look for your nearest Leisure Promotions bus stop. And on that bus stop will be a map with a "You Are Here" sign. And on that map will be every bus stop in a route. So you know exactly where you are on the site at any one given time. And if you want to get up to, say, field 12, you hop on the bus. It will go around in the loop. And then when you get to the designated bus stop for field 12, you jump off and go and do some detecting. If you get tired, you want to go back to the site, walk back to your bus stop, get on the bus, and it will go round in the loop until you get back to the site, and you can jump off and go back to the main arena.
Fantastic.
All the Gators will be supplying free water to everyone as well, providing they've got stock on board. Every time they come back to the arena, they can reload, but we will be giving out bottles of water to people if they need them. And the bus the gated bus stops and the best buses are completely free to everybody.
Are you therefore going to have bigger bins for all them people who
we will
end up throwing their bottles in the middle of anywhere?
That, then they will be kicked off, obviously. Big Steve Newman will remove.
I've just got to say at this point, Adrian, this working outdoors malarkey, there's a bird that's been cheaping. There it is again for the past half hour. If I come down to Essex, I'm going to knock that bird out because it's doing me head in.
I've got an aviary behind me with 400 birds. No, I haven't. No, I just live in the country. There's no pollution down here. It's all carbon neutral, Dave. There's lots of nature everywhere.
But that particular bird, that singular bird,
I don't think it's my bird. I think
it's coming from behind that.
It's
Gary. I'm going to come down to Wiltshire and I'm going to knock that bird out then.
Gary breeds budgies. Gary breeds budgies.
Than Adrian.
No, Adrian. Gary breeds budgie smugglers.
That's good, Dave. That's good. Just one quick. Sorry, Gary, to butt in. Somebody said, "Who are Spinks?" and they spelled with. Sorry.
I hate you, Sadler. I hate you, Sadler.
Someone said, "Who is?" Steve Cord, I think it was, said, "Who are Spinks?" I can't find it. It was in the chat. Who are going to be attending? Spinks are the world's largest numismatic and publishers. They've been publishing books for over 100 years, and they know everything about all the finds that we bring up each year. 95% of them. So yeah, they are the people in the hobby, and there's that book there that Dave's got, which is available from Greenlight Publishing, which is the Bible for.
Yeah, but this is like 8 years old, Adrian, because like I can't.
What Gary forgot to mention was, we're talking about Spinks, is that if you want to bring your coins along to get them appraised at the rally from finds you stuff you found throughout the year. Obviously, not hordes of it, but you bring along your finds, and they'll actually identify them and classify them for you. And that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah. Or if you're a little bit worried about bringing your super duper amazing find to a metal detecting rally and chance yourself of losing it, if you can take some nice photos of it, they will be able to give you a rough idea of appraisal and bits and pieces through a photograph. But obviously it's not quite the same as seeing it in the flesh, but obviously they can fully understand that, you don't really, if you've got something that you believe is quite special, you don't want to risk bringing it and possibly losing it. So they can use photographs as well.
Don't draw it. Don't try and draw it.
No, trace it like a bit of paper. That might work.
And do you know what else will be there, everybody? A free edition of the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine. Yes,
that's going to be there. That's
printed version.
We have the token hunt as well this year, slightly different. It's the token hunt will be the same with the RCM tokens, and which you can then redeem for your token hunt raffle. But obviously, we will be also doing Garrett will be doing a specialist Garrett token hunt, which will be mixed in with all the other tokens. If you find a Garrett token, now those you take to the Garrett tent on the Regden stand, and you will then be able to redeem that token for a spot prize straight away of Garrett goodies. So obviously I don't know what those goodies will be, but probably things like Garrett finds pouches and whatever else they do. But yeah, so that's a token hunt with a slight difference. What have you forgot to say? I told you to not.
Don't know.
I told you to remind me.
What about the detective, Gary?
Well,
yes,
I was going to mention that. Don't forget, we've got 600 acres of new land to hit this year on the estate. We've also not only have we got touch wood, fingers crossed for harvest and stuff. We've got all the fields from last year that we had that were very productive on finds. We've actually got 600 acres from the estate owner that was not used last year.
It be black and hairy, no bees afraid of that.
So we got 600 fresh acres that was not used last year will now be available for us this year, which is fantastic.
Marvellous.
That's such a great site.
That's great. That's going to be really, really good.
The best thing about it is I know which one the best field is. So if everybody comes and sees me and gives me a £1 donation, I'll tell them which field they've got to go in.
Yes.
Oh, I'll give you 100 quid. John.
Information from our John there. Yeah.
What if I get you a signed copy of the RCM magazine signed by Gary?
Oh, yeah.
Then you can raffle that off.
Well, yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
I think the front cover, I was trying to think what picture to use for the front cover, but I think we've shown it tonight. So, can you imagine that on a coffee dining table in your house? What's that got to do with metal detecting? Oh, he's
I think Lisa would appreciate it, to be honest, Major.
Yeah.
There might be a few banners and flags with it on. Ricardo Lees, I think, still.
Ricardo.
Ricardo, yeah, big banner, please, Ricardo.
Steve Newman could get his van wrapped in it with Gary's pants hanging out. Yeah, but anyway, I think what you're saying. Sorry, Gary, what you were saying about the buggies, the what are they called? The Gators. It is, for anyone who's not been to Rodney Cook, it is so good because it's a lot of fields. It's a big distance, and if you're a mature person or you've got walking difficulties, it's so nice to be able to hop between fields. And those Gators
or
pull
fat
up.
like me.
I didn't want to say that. You can hop in there, or if you want to spend an hour walking out to the furthest field, get there, detect, and you're too tired to come back, you can hop on that gator.
You're going to be all right, Adrian, anyway, because Treasure Hunting magazine have got their own personal gator this year.
Yes, and we're going to be giving out drinks, water, and some gifts and prizes, and not prizes, but we'll be giving things away to people who are blonde women. Anyone who wants it. We'll be doing water, like you said. And things.
Will Jules be in the back going like that as he?
He'll be there with his big lens, taking photos of people and things, and he'll be there out in the field. So it'll be good. And I think what's nice is, like I said, you can literally get lifts here, there, everywhere, and it's all free. But, and I say this, which I said to you should do, but I know what you're like. It wouldn't hurt if you slipped the person driving it a £5 or a quid or 10 quid or 20 quid at the end of the weekend to go towards the charity, because those people do it all voluntary, like everyone does at the Rodney Cook. Your fuel's not free, especially in the current climate. So, just tip them, not personally, but just say, I'd like to donate this. So,
Or if you do see them on the field later on, when they're not driving round, buy them a drink.
Yes,
driving
definitely.
us everywhere.
Yeah, definitely, because we talk about Rodney Cook and, Lisa, especially, Gary, your wife, which does loads of work in the background. Living with you is a problem, but for her. But I think the volunteers. I mean, how many do you have in total, Gary?
Oh, do you know what, Adrian? We were trying to work this out before, and we probably will have a minimum this year of up to 50 marshals.
Yeah.
Working shifts, doing, they're working shifts. So effectively, we don't like the word work. They volunteer in shifts. And the gator drivers will do a 3-hour shift, come back, have a rest, and then get, they all work do different jobs. They get mixed around. They all get a chance to relax. There's a marshal's gazebo where they have their access to their water and their food that we supply them with. They have their downtime, their break. John is the I don't know if I've actually given you John. John is the rally. I suppose you're the site manager.
I keep charge of the site. So Dave, obviously,
Dave Chris
that actually organises us as a group. He doesn't like to have the title of being in charge.
He's our boss, basically.
He's boss man, and he we follow his lead, and obviously when we have our meetings preparing and we have new suggestions and stuff, he's coordinated so well with all the lists for the public liabilities, everything we need basically, which obviously people that run rallies can appreciate. What goes on behind the scenes, there's a lot of work goes behind the scenes, especially with yourself, Adrian, with the ticket sales, everybody that gets involved who volunteers. The fundamental thing about it is that they are giving up their metal detecting time to watch other people metal detect selflessly, and some of them work extremely hard to actually keep this running throughout the weekend, because it is quite a task. And we have people with varying degrees of capability. We have people that can only do light duties and stuff like that. It doesn't matter what they do. Every person that gets involved helps so much with actually making it a success. And that's, as I come back to what we said before about it being a family, it's all about that. It's about actually bringing everybody together. And I go away from the weekend, obviously, with very little sleep and exhausted. And Gary goes into his miserable sulk afterwards, because it's quite a bit of a come down afterwards, because it's an achievement that we strive to do. And even now at this point of the year, where we're constantly talking about things and trying to get things off the ground, talking to people, getting people to sponsor stuff and things like that. I mean, the other day we just managed to tie up a sponsor for the skips. And most people don't realise the skips cost a lot of money. Everything costs a lot of money. As you well know, with the Gators, many people have sponsored or put sponsorship in for them, and it goes a long way to the overall effort that people make to make such a vast amount of money. Because especially this year, as you said before, we can't use red diesel anymore. We have to use white diesel. We've got a lot more Gators than we did last year. There's more money going to be spent on that. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do, obviously, is make as much money as we can. But the essential thing what we want to do is we want everybody who comes to the rally to have the best time they can. We have showers for people. They're brilliant for the marshals, because we're there. We stink after a couple of days, so we need them. But the showers are a very useful part of what we do. It's just to make everything that we can do. There are some other things actually. Lisa's got something planned, which we're not allowed to tell you about yet.
Oh, she's doing it. She's doing the naked detecting.
So yeah, I mean, it's all about.
Don't tell Fodderina that.
And obviously, other people have got stuff planned that they want to do, like fodder.
Yes.
It's. I think for me, one of the things that when we talk about the actual rally, one of the best bits about it is I found some incredible friends out of this since I've been metal detecting. But once we started the rally, you realise actually that there are some really special people out there. We do what we do, but there are some people out there that go above and beyond, and it's incredible. It's heartwarming for us to actually. It was humbling actually, because we see how much effort people put into something that we started, but it means so much to them as well. So,
John's right. And it brings me on to what you mentioned a minute ago, Dave, about the detect off. Yes, the detect off is coming back this year, but the actual detect off, the actual event of the detect off will be on the 1 day RCM, which is on the 18th. The build up for the detect off will be over the course of the weekend, and Phil Fodd and Mickey Richardson will be going into battle against each other again, but it's going to be slightly different this year. They're doing it as a bit like the
Ryder Cup.
Yeah, they're having their teams, which will be decided by the Dig Life UK summer draw, which will be held in a few weeks' time. Fods has been doing his usual enthusiastic, full-on commitment to what he does in such a passion that we all love. And he's created this fantastic draw that he's doing, and so many prizes from so many people have been donated, and the money that he raises through that goes to the RCM, and obviously some of those prizes will be team members for the RCM detect off with a trophy and everything else that you know. One thing I want to say, it's John touched on it, is the amount of people who support the RCM with their fundraising. Groups like Dig Life UK, Stop Wishing, Go Digging, our good friend and fellow jolly boy Phil Frag Hill with Heart of England. There's also the Grim Sweepers with Chris Horner and Vicky Gates, Billy Fox, the lovable rogue that is Steve Newman, who I love dearly. Apparently he's going to be walking around as my bodyguard this year. So, bless him. But they all contribute money with bits and pieces of fundraising to help towards the things like the Gators.
Just to interrupt you there, Rob Random's also about to do something, a live prize draw on one of his
right.
shows as well. So keep an eye on Rob Random's YouTube channel, and you'll learn more there.
Yeah, I think he's given away a spare ticket that he had. He's going to be doing that. And don't forget, obviously, on the Dig Life, you have the 2 golden tickets that they've got, which will be.
That gets you free chocolate all weekend.
Yeah, because we haven't accounted for those, Gary, in the ticket sales, so I'm not sure they'll be able to get in, but they might on the day.
Yeah.
So
I think that Ricardo is going to be dressed as an Oompa Loompa all weekend. So he's going to be a bit like the guy from Phoenix Nights when he used that spray.
The spray paint, yeah.
Potter's Tiger.
Young Kenny, wasn't it?
I want to watch that tonight.
His face was painted for the entire series, wasn't it? Because he couldn't get it off. But yeah, so, and obviously Fodderina, I'm not allowed to say anything about what Fodderina has planned this year, but she will be back with a vengeance, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yes, Adrian, be careful and beware and be nice.
I know. So, yeah, Phil now.
Fodderina is returning, and she will be back, but I cannot tell you in what shape or form because I have been sworn to secrecy with Fodderina.
Well, listen, Gary.
It's 9:45.
Our pre-allotted airtime that we pay valuable money for is running short. It's now 10:15.
Is it really?
So anyway, is there any last bits and bobs that you want to give a shout out to before we depart? Yeah, let John get a word in.
Just obviously a huge thank you to everybody who contributes in any way, shape or form to the organising, running, fundraising, from all the manufacturers to Adrian and Treasure Hunting Magazine, Search About, all of them, Leisure Promote, all of them, Regden, everyone who comes together to help make the RCM what it is. And we love every one of you. And the one thing I haven't said is how much I love this man. He is my rock. He is, I always say, he's the older brother I never had. I love him with all my heart.
Honest to God, he's on the phone moaning about every single little thing.
Don't believe that.
And it's agony, not his brother. Honestly.
Where's
John?
John? It's the fact he's just called you out for being old. That's what makes it weird.
Well, I am.
John, are you having a sleepover at Gary's tonight, or are you going out?
I had the blue budgie smugglers, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Yeah. Lisa's sleeping on the sofa tonight. No, it's been a pleasure having you both on, and hats off to you, Gary and John, and everyone who does what they do for Rodney Cook. And it's been nice talking tonight, and looking forward to seeing everyone in September. I think it will be a cracking event.
7 weeks.
I know, and not forgetting I mustn't forget Ben, because we've got to shut in a minute. Shop's shutting. Ben, thank you ever so much for coming on the show
Yes,
tonight.
Ben, absolutely fantastic, brilliant guest.
Ben will
Lovely
be
to speak to him.
He'll be deciding the winner of the under. There is an under. Spinks are running an under 12 competition for the best find of the rally for the under 12 children, and Ben will be picking the winner.
Awesome.
Go for it, kids. Go for it, kids.
Yeah. So,
right. That will about do us. We will be back. That would have done us, but Gary started again. What? Sorry?
I said Scotty B might be able to enter that competition.
Yes.
I love you, Scotty. I said you joke.
I'm going to get him a school uniform. And that's not in a perverted manner. It's after 9:30. I can say that now. Right. We'll be back same time, same place next week with our guest next week, who will be Diggers Den Tyson UK MD is Terry Reid. So he'll be back for us next week. And the following week, I won't be here. You'll have a better looking host, not as well as you, Adrian. Kerry will be joining us, and we will having, I can't remember his name. He's from Monarch Designs anyway. Mine's gone blank. What's his name? Quick. What's his name?
Designs. Don't say
Monarch
anymore.
Designs.
He makes things.
I need his
Metal
name.
detector.
I need his name.
Tracy.
Brian.
Shirley. Oh,
Brian.
No, not me.
Brian.
Badondi. Oh, don't worry, Dave.
Brian Goodsir Thompson of Monarch Designs. Displays and designs for detectorists. So, we will see you next week. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, John. And thank you to Ben.
John.
Thank you, Adrian.
Take care.
Thank you for all joining us and for all playing nice. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night, John.
Cheers.
John. Love the Bubsy Snugglers. Night, y'all.
Sleep on your back.
Don't look back.